Hello again and welcome. I'm Dr. Vyas, and we're continuing our talk on chronic illnesses and chronic inflammation. Now, you heard me, or you might have watched some of the videos where we talked about how chronic inflammation is at the root cause of most of the chronic illnesses that we are seeing today. And most of these are being called what's called lifestyle conditions or lifestyle diseases. What do we mean by that? Lifestyle means the big part is your nutrition, the diet, what we are putting in our bodies. So in this video, I'm going to talk to you about top 10 most inflammatory foods that we're putting in our bodies that create a lot of this chronic inflammation, and how maybe you should start avoiding some of these things. All right, so let's talk about it. The first one, number one, is sugar, the refined sugars. You've heard me talk about sugar all the time. This refined sugar comes hidden in all sorts of different fancy names nowadays. When you're reading labels, your sucrose, fructose, high fructose corn syrup, sucralose. They put all sorts of different names in it. And now, again, most of these, especially your fructose, your high fructose corn syrup, has been known to significantly cause a lot of inflammation, not just in your gut, but throughout the body. So that's one thing that you always want to avoid. And where is it found? Things like your candies, your sodas, all these different refined things that have hidden sugars in them. Sometimes even some of these, sports drinks or drinks that are considered diet or healthy drinks actually have a lot of sugar hidden in them. So you want to be a little bit careful about that. Number two would be trans fats. Now, we've all heard about trans fats and we know they're kind of bad. So what exactly is it? Trans fat are artificially made fats. These things help certain foods, the commercially produced pastries and foods like that, survive a little longer on the shelf. So that's where they do that. Now, trans fat have been known to increase your bad cholesterol and lower your good cholesterol levels in your body. So again, we know these things are bad. We want to try and avoid these things. And that's the big thing why you see all the labels nowadays reading, the trans fat content in them. So a lot of the processed foods, again, contain a lot of trans fat. The way I said, any baked pastries and things like that are sitting on a shelf for a longer period of time will contain a lot of trans fat. So read some of those labels. Number three is your refined carbs. Now, refined carbs, just like your refined sugars, are carbs, or they're grains and stuff that have been processed such that a lot of the fiber, the nutrient values from them, the vitamins, the minerals, some of those have actually been stripped. And that's why you will know that when you read some of these things, they say fortified with vitamins. So they actually have to add a little bit of vitamins in it. Otherwise, they're just nothing but empty calories, right? So they add some vitamins and stuff to fortify them with some form of, especially vitamin B's, to enhance it, some ways. Otherwise, they've taken out all the natural things from it. Now, refined carbs are found in your cereals, your breakfast cereals. Not only are they loaded with sugar, but they're all refined carbs, your breads, your pastas. Any of these things, the white breads, those are notorious for having nothing but just refined flour. Now, when we're talking about that, the other big thing would be gluten. When you talk about carbs, gluten is the big thing we all know, and we are all familiar with gluten now. It comes from your wheat, your barley, your rye, any of these grains that contain this protein. Gluten is a sticky protein, and it binds to a lot of things, or is being used as a binding agent. You may have even seen that they even use gluten in things like your condiments, your ketchup, your mustards, your barbecue sauces contain gluten in them nowadays. So that gluten, they have shown that over 70% of the population, anybody that does eat a lot of this gluten, is actually sensitive to gluten. Now, sensitivity and an allergic reaction are whole different things. Somebody with celiac has an autoimmune condition, which means they can completely not digest gluten. A gluten sensitivity, which almost everyone nowadays suffers from or has, is where your body cannot process that thing the right way, considers it foreign, and when anything that's foreign in your body, what happens? You raise your inflammation levels, especially in your gut. So gluten has been notorious to actually harm your small intestines and all that. That whole leaky gut syndrome you may have heard of. We'll talk about some of that in another video, but leaky gut is something that happens with this and disrupts your whole immune system and causes all sorts of other issues. Number five would be dairy. Dairy is another big one. We all know dairy is, people have so many issues. Now, a lot of studies have shown that 60% of the population worldwide cannot digest dairy. And yet, we suck down dairy every single day, right? So dairy, when I talk about dairy, is a lot of the animal milks. Animal milks, your sheep milk, your cow milk, all of these kind of things, your cheeses and your yogurts and all this that we are eating have two different kind of proteins in them. Dairy does especially, is your whey and casein. Now, whey and casein are things that you might have seen in a lot of, health products or any of these sports products that you see. But casein disrupts your gut severely. It is one of those biggest proteins, which is the way I said, it's part of that thing which causes dairy is becoming, because of the casein content, is one of the number one allergens that causes inflammation in your body. So, as much as you can, I'd definitely suggest you avoiding dairy. Now, we are moving on to number 6, which is your processed meats, your deli meats. This is a very quick lunch that everybody gets nowadays. Your bacons and your pastrami's and salamis and all the fun-tasting meats. These are loaded with nitrates and nitrites. Now, these things have been known, or research has actually shown, that they can cause your colon and your gut cancers. So, those are things to avoid. Processed meats not a bad thing. It's not a good thing at all. Now, talking about processed meats, the other thing, number 7, would be your farm-raised meats, your poultry and meats that are farm-raised, which means any of these commercially farmed meats. We've heard about how, they take this big cows or pigs and they put them in any of these farms where they load them up with full of corn and soy. That's what they give them to feed and get them bigger, and that's the meat we're eating. Corn and soy are also inflammatory because they contain a lot of what's called omega-6 fatty acids. There's omega-3 and omega-6. Omega-6 is one of those which we don't want too much of. Too much of that causes inflammation in the body. So any of these commercially farmed foods. Now, the other thing with commercially farmed foods, we know that they're sitting around in stalls, so they're loaded up with hormones and antibiotics, which make them even fatter, and that fat is trans fat. So be careful, read labels, not a good fat that you want to be eating. Number 8 would be your artificial sugars, artificial sweeteners and preservatives. And the biggest one we all know about is your aspartame. Aspartame is a huge one that is used in any of the sugar-free drinks, your diet sodas, your sports drinks. Any of these low sugar drinks have aspartame in it. And aspartame has been known to be a cause of a lot of different disruptive issues in your stomach. Not just the stomach, your gut, your brain, a lot of things that get affected by it. And of course, all that links back to causing a lot of chronic inflammation. Now, when we talk about preservatives, the big one that they're using is something called MSG, your monosodium glutamate. It's just a flavor enhancer, but oh man, does it play a havoc in your body. So those are a few things that you want to definitely avoid. Number 9 is alcohol. Yes, alcohol, we know what happens with that, right? So in moderation, it's good, right? We know a glass of red wine or something has a lot of health benefits. But more than 2 drinks for men and more than 1 drink for women every day is known to cause inflammation in the body. See, alcohol goes through your liver. The liver is your filter in the body. It also gets rid of all the toxins, right? That's what the liver does in the body. Now, if you're making it, get a little more stressed out by putting a lot of alcohol in there, it's not able to get rid of those toxins very easily. And when those toxins sit around in your body, raises your level of inflammation, causes a whole sorts of illnesses and sicknesses in your body. And number 10, the last one that I'll definitely tell everyone to avoid that are really causing inflammation is your vegetable and seed oils. These are those partially hydrogenated oils that they're using. Your cotton seed oil, your sunflower seed oil, any of these corn oil and all. These oils are again processed highly. They are again containing a lot of what we call the omega-6 fatty acid. Omega-6, as I said before, is linked to a lot of inflammation in the body. So, now you've heard my list of 10 of the things that I would suggest that you definitely avoid, especially if you have any kind of chronic illness or if you're suffering from any chronic inflammatory issues, rheumatoid arthritis, any of those kind of things. All of these things, when you put them in the body, raises your level of inflammation, causing you issues to get even worse. So I hope some of these things have helped. I know it's a long list and it's like makes you wonder, oh my God, what am I going to eat? But there are a lot of different substitutes for a lot of these things, which I'll make another video and we'll talk about some of that the next time. So hope it helps. Share this information. And as always, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.